It's huge. It's so big.
You're listening to a Cult Talk Network podcast.
File access granted.
Hello, all you believers, idealists, skeptics, and all those who question the universe around them. I'm Bailey.
And I'm Ty. And this is Cult Talks Conspiracy Summer at Sea 2, our annual summer podcasting event where we talk about all sorts of sea-based and aquatic mysteries and conspiracies to make you question everything before you go back into the water. Always a fun time.
Oh, yes. This is the time of the year that so I am not a big, summer person.
Neither am I.
I
hate summer.
No, don't like it. I'm already spending most of the summer, not periodically, but planned periodically inside because I'm not about the heat. I grew up in Georgia. I've had enough. I'm good. So,
I hate the heat. I hate all that. I like swimming. That's one plus for summer, but I can always find an indoor pool if I'm desperate enough to swim.
I don't particularly enjoy going swimming.
Really?
Not really.
Man, I love being in the water, in a pool or a creek or something like that. I love that.
I don't know. For me, it's the bathing suit aspect. I'm like, I gotta get in a bathing suit now. No.
But no, I'm definitely always counting down for fall.
Yes.
I don't. Summer is just a hurdle between spring and fall to me.
It really is. It's just it's the necessary evil that I go through, and then we get here in Ohio, we get a false fall. We get it's not even an Indian summer because we don't even get any, it's 1 week of leaves changing color and some sort of cool breeze that's coming by, and then it's all heat the rest of the time. And for me, my outfit is my outfit. So if I'm dressed really cute and for fall, then I'm just going to have a heat stroke, but at least I'm going to look cute on the ambulance ride. So those are my feelings.
I remember when I was younger, I always thought September was the beginning of fall, but September is the hottest month here in Ohio.
It really is.
It's one of the hottest fucking things. Then here as of late, it's been it doesn't even start cool down to halfway through October.
A week of Halloween is what it is.
Yeah, I hate the summer. I'm perpetually in fall.
Same.
But summer at sea's the one shining light of this damned season is that we get to talk about all these weird and creepy, interesting sea and aquatic based mysteries, and there's a ton of them.
There really is. We could go on for quite a few summers with all of the mysterious and scary sea stories that are out there. I would like to branch out into lakes and rivers too, because I love a good river monster.
Yeah, river monsters are good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are always interesting. I think those are cool little small town local legends that I'm really drawn to. But you're touching something today that I'm surprised we didn't do in the first summer at sea, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, it's a big boy. So I'm a little glad that we decided to wait. Not even going to lie. It's huge. It's so big that people disagree on how big it actually is. And that is the Bermuda Triangle.
I love the Bermuda Triangle mystery. That's something that I don't know. I feel like I knew about Bermuda Triangle when I was really young.
Very young.
Because it's something that's covered very well in documentaries and books and things like that. I mean, it's very much a part of pop culture media as much as it is cryptozoology and science and everything.
Absolutely.
So I've always known about. I mean, it's always been intriguing. It's like the sea conspiracy.
Same. This was the first conspiracy that I ever heard of in my entire life, really. My mom was really into the Bermuda Triangle. She's really into the ocean and the sea itself because she was also the first person that ever showed me the movie Jaws. And so great taste in movies as well. And So that was how I became aware of the Bermuda Triangle. Prior to doing this episode, though, I had never really done a huge deep dive into it. And the deeper you go into the Bermuda Triangle, the more twists and turns you're going to find with it. There's so many different people and so many different experts and professors, and of course, sailors and even pilots that have so many different opinions and so many different experiences with the Bermuda Triangle that, of course, we can't fit it all into one episode, but I hope I pulled some good ones.
Good. Yeah, there's a ton. Have you ever seen, I think it's called The Triangle. It's a really good mini series that Sci-Fi did. It's got Sam Neill in it.
Ooh, I already
really
like it.
Good. It's I think 3 episodes, and it's a super good mini series.
Nice.
I watch it every couple of years. I feel like just because it's on Tubi right now, so if you get the itch to watch it, it's on there for free. It's really good, really interesting, science-y, conspiracy, mysterious, all the buzzwords that I look for in something like that. Very good TV show. 3 or 4 episodes, I'm pretty sure, but it's a good watch.
Nice. That is definitely something I'm going to have to look into because I love Sam Neill.
Yeah, he's great in it.
He's fabulous.
Yeah, I remember I messaged you because we do our list of here's what the episodes are going to be, and you mentioned you're doing Bermuda Triangle, and I was like that's a big one.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. It's one you can't you got to really dive in that one because there's a million Bermuda Triangle explorations out there, so it's a big subject. It really is.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's one of those ones that keeps going and going and going. And right when you think you found the first person to have an experience in the Bermuda Triangle, there's one right before that. So it's it's got so many twists and turns and waves in it. And it's amazing. I am so ready to unseal this file and start talking about the Bermuda Triangle. What about you?
Let's do it. Let's unseal file 048, the 5th episode of Summer at Sea 2.
Yeah.
We're nearing the end.
We're almost done. We're almost there. And then we get
back home.
Almost back home, and then we get to celebrate Cultober. But without any further ado, let us unseal this file number 048, the Vanishing Points, exploring the Bermuda Triangle. So, Ty, can you recall the first time that you heard of the Bermuda Triangle, or the first story you ever heard with it?
No, I can't. I really can't. It's one of those things. I mentioned a few times. It's one of those things I don't really have a recollection of how or where I heard of it. I've always known about this. It's just always been in my sphere of knowledge.
Yeah,
is this thing that's occurred? But I don't have I'm assuming it was probably on some documentary in the 90s, more than likely, Unsolved Mysteries or some show like that. I'm sure covered it at some point, and that's probably where I heard it from the first time. But I do remember having a book that was in my elementary school library that was a mystery, unexplained type book, and it being covered in it. I remember reading about that when I was very young, so that's probably the only memory I have, but I know I knew about it before that.
Yeah, I can't point to the very first story that I ever heard of the Bermuda Triangle. I just kind of all throughout my life knew that it was a thing that is really not to be fucked with. And we just keep going right back to it. It's crazy. So also nicknamed the Devil's Triangle and Hurricane Alley. And it's not just because it's a cool name to give a place, but because the triangle could actually be responsible for over 2,000 ships and 200 aircraft disappearances over the past 5 to 6 centuries. And those are just the ones that we know about.
Damn.
It's a lot. I mean, 2,000 ships.
Massive amount.
So many, 200 aircraft. So it's insane. Stories from the Bermuda Triangle actually go back as far as when Christopher Columbus was traveling the seas in order to find the New World. Christopher would write about seeing fires emerge from the ocean as well as seeing strange lights in the sky.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I know. There's I've seen like many of times like ufologists will reference the logs of Christopher Columbus because he does like reference some weird stuff, and I think he even mentions like sea monsters at one point or seeing like serpents.
Interesting.
Maybe not in like references of that, but
That's super cool. I want to look more into the sea monster sightings on that, but I definitely the strange lights in the sky. I've heard talk of that being in more than just one place in the Bermuda Triangle, but he traveled everywhere. He was all over the ocean, so I bet he did see some stuff.
yeah.
It is not really determined how big the Bermuda Triangle really is or even where it is. The Bermuda Triangle is actually, I don't want to say less credible, but it's less documented, I should say, than Here There Be Monsters. Because Here There Be Monsters and even Atlantis ended up on a map. Bermuda Triangle to this day is not on a map. It's somewhere that you actually have to draw in, and you can do it. You go from the coast of Florida, Miami, over to Bermuda, and then to San Juan, Puerto Rico, and that is what we know as the Bermuda Triangle.
Okay, so it's a massive stretch of land, or I guess not land, a massive stretch
of ocean. It's anywhere from 500,000 to 1.5 million square miles of the South Atlantic.
Jesus.
Oh yeah.
Jeez.
Oh yeah.
It's like one of those things too. It's like, okay, well, like all this weird stuff happens, but how do we just avoid that area?
You really can't.
It's like I'm sure we could but it's like why there's a massive piece of area out there, and we're just going like, as humanity, just be like, oh, let's not go here for whatever reason.
I think that's fine. I think it's fine. I think it's totally fine. Listen, there are just parts that we're just not supposed to mess with, okay? Like there's just the gods have deemed it to where we just don't need to do that shit. And it's fine. There's actually on Bermuda's national flag, there is a shipwreck on the flag.
Okay.
They're proud of their history.
Yeah, I guess. Strange omen. Just put that on there.
I feel like it's a bad omen to put that on your national flag. Like,
really is.
Zero disrespect. I am just looking at the facts here. And I've got 9 pages worth of facts. So I'm just saying. Bermuda Triangle really wouldn't hit mainstream media until September 17th, 1950. And this was when Edward Van Winkle Jones would publish an article in the Miami Herald that would be distributed by the Associated Press, landing in various newspapers all across America. And then by 1952, just 2 years later, someone which we already know and love, Fate magazine, who also gave us the works of Richard Shaver and Tales of Mount Shasta, as well as the thrilling story of the Pensacola Sea Monster. And you can listen to all of those files.
Yeah, we talked about him.
Yes. That was a minute ago. And then the Pensacola Sea Monster. I think this is the second mention of the Pensacola Sea Monster since we've done that episode. That story freaks me out, man. Oh my gosh. Freaks me out. So anyway, Fate magazine would publish Sea Mystery at Our Back Door, which was a short story written by George X. Sand. So Sand would actually recount many disappearances and lives lost at the hands of the points of the triangle. Starting with the Sandra, a tramp steamer from World War II, which who decided to call it a tramp steamer? I have questions.
Well, I think tramp, like what we know as like the euphemism, I think it's from like the steamer.
Is it really?
I think that's where it came from.
Interesting.
I'll have to Google that.
Please do. I want to know.
While you're talking, yeah, you go ahead and continue on.
Okay. So in the infamous 1945 disappearance of Flight 19, several occurrences in 1948, including the Star Tiger, the disappearance of a fishing skiff containing Albert Snyder and 2 of his friends, Now, Snyder was actually a jockey in the thoroughbred racing, and he had great success and was actually promised to race in the Kentucky Derby, but Eddie Acaro would replace him, winning and sharing some of the reward with his widow. I thought that was super cute because here we have like this amazing equestrian rider, and he goes missing in the Bermuda Triangle the weekend before.
Yeah.
Like just very, very close. Not the weekend before, I think it was a few months prior to competing in the Derby. And then to have his replacement split the reward with his wife. Oh, good man. Good man.
So yeah, tramp steamer, that is where that term came from. So tramp steamer, it is a ship that doesn't have a schedule or a port, or so basically it's a homeless ship. It doesn't have like a specific port that it rests at. So it's called a tramp.
It's a tramp.
So that's where that comes from. That's where we get the term tramp. You call someone tramps because they don't have
They're
a home,
homeless.
they don't own anything. Yeah. So yeah. Tramp steamer is the origin of that term.
Interesting. So Sand also covered the 1948 disappearance when an airborne transport D3 charter flight heading from Puerto Rico to Miami, and another disappearance in January of 1949 when the Star Ariel, which was another passenger airplane, fell victim to the Triangle. So already we have a couple that we're going to talk about, and also a couple of other disappearances of big charter boats, passenger flights, as well as smaller fishing boats going missing in the Triangle.
Damn.
So we're going to...
It's already swallowing up stuff. It's already being, I guess, recorded.
Mm-hmm.
These events are already being recorded.
Right. And then, like, these authors, so Edward Van Winkle Jones, who published the article in the Miami Herald, was actually, like, really demonized for writing the article, like, kind of expounding on the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle. A lot of people in most recent articles that I saw about the article that he wrote were by locals from Bermuda, and they were like, it was a tourist trap, like, it really ruined a lot of what we're doing over here because now everyone wants to see the stigma of the Bermuda Triangle, and then you tell people you're from Bermuda, and it's like, oh, did you hear about the Bermuda Triangle? And those were the things that I read. Now, there's probably a lot of Bermudians that are like, hey, we like it. It's cool.
I work with people from Bermuda all the time, and I've never once asked them about like Bermuda Triangle or like their thoughts on it. I should do that sometime.
I would just get their thoughts. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I might do that sometime. Yeah, it's never once, for whatever reason, it's never once came to my mind to ask, but I might do that sometime.
See, me and my nosy conspiracy brain would be like, hey, come here. I have questions for you. So we're going to get into a few more of the detailed disappearances, starting with one of the first recorded disappearances. And I say first recorded because we really don't know how many ships and aircrafts have been lost. We probably have a better idea of how many aircrafts have been lost just due to the fact that there are radio communications and everything that happened with that. Ships, not so much, because like I said in Leviathan, humans are not that great at keeping history. So the USS Pickering in 1800 was probably the first American vessel to go missing around the Bermuda Triangle. So it was the first brig built for the United States Revenue Cutter Service, which was an armed customs enforcement service. They would eventually go into kind of becoming part of the Coast Guard as well.
Okay.
So it entered into the Navy during the Quasi-War with the French, and she would go on to serve in many Marine battles throughout 1798 into 1800. On June 10th, 1800, the USS Pickerington was set to course from Guadalupe to Delaware, but the vessel and her 91 people aboard would never be seen again. And to this day, the
91 people just gone.
91 people just gone, and a big ass ship too. And then we go to 1880, just 80 years later, the HMS Atlanta. One of the most famous disappearances ever to be attributed to the Bermuda Triangle. It was originally named the HMS Juno, and she was a 26-gun frigate and served in the British Empire. So it's quite interesting that both of these ships and the next couple of, actually I think there's only one vessel that we talk about that is not military related. No, there's 3. Okay. There's only 3 that we talk about that are not military related. So these ones were documented very well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Like, where is our ship?
How much of the documents are released to us?
Yeah, we have to request documentation in order to get it, which don't get me started on how stupid that is. Like, no. Tell us. I pay taxes. Tell me what's going on. Serving as a training ship in 1880, the HMS Atlanta, the crew of the ship was mostly made of young, inexperienced men. So these were not even people who were, top tier. And I say that because they're young and they're inexperienced. They were on a training ship. There's probably only a few experienced sailors on there, if we're lucky.
So I mean, there's a lot of room for error, I guess, on that. I mean,
absolutely,
they are pretty inexperienced guys. So I mean, if something drastic or something serious came up, there is, I guess, cause that maybe they weren't able to handle whatever was going on.
So yeah, there's a ton of room for human error at that point, because these guys are unexperienced and they had no idea what they were sailing into. So the vessel and its entire crew would actually go missing in the Bermuda area, and most assumed that the ship sank due to powerful storms. This next one is very interesting because the Avon, which was a very similar ship, sailed in a similar time and area and did report seeing wreckage from what they thought might have been the HMS Atlanta in the sea.
Oh, okay. So they actually may have. So they're saying they may have seen it. They don't know for sure.
Yes, they don't know.
Okay.
Now, one former crew member of the Atlanta did say that the ship was overweight and even referenced seeing it themselves, the vessel, roll beyond 32 degrees in heavy weather. So that's why a lot of people think that it might have sunk in a heavy storm because of this account right here.
Okay, so the amount of weight it had on it, I guess, probably fucked up the buoyancy.
Oh, yeah. And then it was later believed that a German ship saw the wreck of the Atlanta when it was passing through the triangle later that same year. So we have 2 different ships that may have actually seen the HMS Atlanta after it wrecked later that year. Another extremely famous story from the Bermuda Triangle, the USS Cyclops. I love that name.
I've heard about the Cyclops many a times.
Now, this was one I actually wasn't too familiar with, but I thought it was cool. So in World War I, the U.S. Proteus class coiler ship, that's a name. That's a name for an engine right there. Launched on May 7th in 1910, and it would disappear in March of 1918 with 306 people aboard, and there was not a trace left. No wreckage, no life vests, no nothing. We have no idea what happened. So its last known location of the USS Cyclops was actually in Brazil after completing orders to assist in refueling a British ship. And they left February 16th, 1918. And March 3rd and 4th, it was known that the ship was in the vicinity of Barbados, which would be the last ever.
So it's down there?
Huh?
So it's down there in the vicinity?
Yeah, in the vicinity of Barbados. And that's what's known as the last sighting of the USS Cyclops. Never seen or heard from again.
It really does kind of set into perspective, just the size of the ocean when these massive ships like this can just disappear.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things that you kind of forget how monstrous the ocean really can be. I mean, I don't, because I'm scared of it, but it's something that goes from being on our TV screens to being there in real life.
Yeah.
It's for me, it's hard to concept how drastically how big it is, because I've stood on the beach before, and you look out and it goes out for miles and miles and miles, and my brain almost can't comprehend it. Just thinking that I could go out like 50 feet and probably end up 5 miles out because of the shore and the wind and the waves.
Current, yeah.
Oh, is that what that's called? Oh, is that what that's called?
Yeah, current.
And now we have the biggest experience of the Bermuda Triangle. Have you ever heard of Flight 19?
I think so. Go ahead and tell me about it.
Awesome. So it took place 7 months after World War II. On December 5th, 1945, 5 TMB Avenger torpedo bombers disappeared over the Bermuda Triangle. Now, this was during an overwater navigation training flight from the United States Navy, and they lost contact with all 14 naval aviators. So they took off from...
I do know about that.
Yeah.
I've read about that one, yeah.
It's huge. Like, that's why I was like, okay, great. We're going to have a lesson today. But it's ginormous. So taking off from the Naval Air Station in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, ironically, the planes would fly in a triangular pattern across the South Atlantic. And it was supposed to be a routine training flight. Nothing was supposed to go wrong, as every story tragedy begins.
Right.
So flight leader was Lieutenant Charles C. Taylor, a veteran combat pilot, and every member of the exercise had logged almost 200 or over 200 hours of flying experience. Very well trained men, very well seasoned, knew what they were doing, for lack of better words. And they also knew the protocols as well as what to do when things go wrong. I do want to point that out because that's going to be important later. So in what was supposed to be a simple drop and turn back exercise, after dropping their practice bombs in the assigned area, which was around the Bahamas, somewhere over the Atlantic, they would hit bad weather. So a massive storm was traveling south and generating hurricane wind force winds. I don't know what just came out of my mouth. Generating hurricane force winds of 8,000 feet. Very big, huge, like coming up near the plane, huge. So the last radio transmission came in as a distress call from one of the pilots reporting a compass malfunction, and they had all lost their way. One of Lieutenant Taylor's earlier transmission was, and I quote, "I'm sure I'm in the Keys, but I don't know how far down, and I don't know how to get to Fort Lauderdale." Totally and utterly lost is Lieutenant Taylor. Because unfortunately...
Those planes had like navigation equipment and everything. Right?
Oh, gone. Totally gone. Total malfunction.
Blind, right?
Huh? You're flying blind.
Flying blind.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Because a big thing with the Bermuda Triangle is that all navigational equipment, including like compasses and GPS and all of that you could use, goes completely haywire. Like the compass will just start spinning by itself in in all directions, and you'll have no idea where you are. So these pilots are absolutely flying blind. They have no idea where they're going. And unfortunately, Lieutenant Taylor would be entirely wrong about their location. And they were actually over 200 miles north of where they were supposed to be. So flying blind gets 200 miles off course, which I was reading not too long ago. And I read a little fun fact that was if you're flying from Washington to New York, if you were to like turn the yoke a little bit off course, you would end up in like Canada. Like just by
it's that precise.
Right. Yeah. Like, oh man, that's nuts to me. It's absolutely nuts.
That was like going last year. I think it was like late last year. There was a thing where all these like conservative guys, like online, had convinced themselves that pilots were overpaid and that they could fly planes.
Oh,
did you ever hear about that?
No.
It was like a big thing. All these like conservative dudes, just like because like somehow the discussion came online about how much pilots get paid, because pilots get paid very well.
Oh yes.
So. And all these like conservative like blue collar guys were like in an uproar about this, and were convinced that flying a plane is as easy as driving a forklift or a tractor, or and that these pilots were like overpaid, and it was like a scheme, and it was to keep blue collar people down. All this, it was like a scheme by the airplane companies. Just this wild thing that came out last year.
What the heck?
Where all these like blue collar conservative people just thought that this was like that flying a plane is just like putting it in gear, pumping the gas, and off you go.
That is.
But no, there's a lot of very high tech stuff that goes into a cockpit. It is not a steering wheel and two pedals by any means.
No, not at all. That is that's almost shameful. Ooh.
Yeah, it was a big thing last year, like on Reddit and on like Twitter. Like all these people just like were just in uproar that they were just convinced that flying a plane is like nothing.
That's don't like that. Don't like that. Listen, when I get in a plane, the same way when I get into a doctor's office, I don't want the C person, like the person that passed with all C's. I want the person that's got the most experience with straight A's.
Yeah.
Like, I want the person that went to school for it,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that just makes me nervous now. So a lot of people speculated that it was due to Lieutenant Taylor's unfamiliarity with the area that he actually that was what misled him. But it's more likely that he was just so disoriented from the storm that he wasn't able to tell where he actually was. And that was how he ended up getting lost. Fun fact, at the time, the protocol for pilots going missing over the Atlantic was to actually start heading west toward the setting sun until they reached land. And then they would be able to reassess where they actually were. Okay. Lieutenant Taylor didn't do that. It does, because you're going to hit one of the Americas at that point, right? Yeah. One of the Americas. Yeah. So, but Lieutenant Taylor didn't do that. He opted to fly east. And the flight instructor, Lieutenant Cox, would actually hear the men arguing over the direction they were going on through the radio. And the men did convince Lieutenant Taylor to begin flying west, but a short term after, Lieutenant Taylor ordered the men to return flying east again. So it was suspected that one or more of the bombers broke from the group and began heading west without him or the entire squad. But like I said, all flights were lost. So either way, they didn't make it back.
Yeah.
So that evening, as the sun set, Lieutenant Cox heard Lieutenant Taylor order his men to begin preparing for a water landing. Lieutenant Taylor's final radio transmission would come in shortly after. And I quote, "We can't tell where we are. Everything can't make out anything. We think maybe about 225 miles northeast of base. It looks like we are entering the white water. We're completely lost." End quote.
Yeah.
Completely lost.
Imagine the hopelessness of that. Like just finally just like realizing like that we're not getting back.
No. That sends shivers down my spine right there, just realizing that. Yeah. Or like being in the thought.
Had to be a shitty feeling, especially like just admitting to your team, like, hey, yeah, we're definitely not getting home this evening. Like,
someone was screaming at him, going, "We should have gone west." So someone was screaming.
Lay her down, Hoss. Lay her down.
Oh man. So the search and rescue efforts would start with a grim note, as the OBM Mariner, or the flying boat as it would be called, would also go missing after attempting to find Flight 19. The craft, along with its 13 crew members, would vanish. So you got all these flights that go missing, and then you send in the rescue boat and it goes missing. It's like, guys, we got to talk here. I mean, all these lives are important. That we got to have a conversation. So the PMB Marina actually had a reputation for being accident prone, being nicknamed the flying gas tank for their tendencies to explode. So, excuse me, I said OBM, it is the PBM. So they sent the most accident-prone craft out there to go find these. I feel like it was a setup.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a poor choice.
Absolutely. So months after the disappearance, the Navy would actually release a 500-page report of their findings, in which they would include where Lieutenant Taylor thought he was versus his true locations. Most likely, Lieutenant Taylor mistook the Bahamas for the Florida Keys, which is much further south than he actually was. And unfortunately, the aircraft's true locations were much closer to where they needed to be than Lieutenant Taylor actually thought. Such a shame. Such a shame.
Yeah, that's awful.
It's also believed that the mechanical failure was also partly to blame for the malfunctioning compass that would continue to spin. It is important to note that Lieutenant Taylor was not put at fault for any of the disappearances.
Well, that's good.
Oh, yes. Now, years later in 1973, Michael McDonnell would write an article in the Naval Aviation News suggesting that the flight was lost due to their becoming lost, as well as running out of gas. And a lot of people still do question this outcome solely based on how experienced these pilots were. These pilots knew how much gas they had. These pilots knew the protocol in which they needed to do in case they were in event of becoming lost. Yes, you can say that Lieutenant Taylor not knowing the area could be partly to blame, but he had a whole team of people with him. I think he had a team, excluding himself, of 13 people with him.
Wow.
So,
and all 13 of them, were to be, confused and.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
They all could have been disoriented.
Well, I mean, it's wild to think that all 13 of them would be, except from the same effect,
Right. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the Star Tiger and Star Ariel also disappeared under mysterious circumstances over the triangle. So we're going to start with the Star Tiger because it actually happened before the Star Ariel. We'll get into that in a minute. So the Avro Tudor 5, a passenger plane owned and operated by the British South American Airways, disappeared on January 30th, 1948, while flying between Santa Maria and Bermuda. Now, 2 days prior to the disappearances, the crew and the passengers would begin to be called back into the airport due to the poor inner engine needing attention. The plane would receive its required maintenance and refuel, and then be cleared to take off the next 2 days. Almost immediately after taking off, Star Tiger would hit strong storms that would blow them completely off course. The navigator did fix their position, however, they had been 60 miles off course from the previous hour. At this point, they had been in the air for 10 hours. So you're 10 hours in, you've just flown 60 miles off of course. I can't do airplane math like that.
I'm not going to try.
No, yeah. So you're hours off course. We're just going to, I don't know. So the pilot of the Star Tiger did expect to reach Bermuda at least 1 hour's worth of fuel remaining. So they're like, okay, we're going to make it, but we're barely going to make it. But they were still expecting to reach their destination with a little bit of fuel left over.
So they were like pretty kind of close. They were kind of close regardless. Like
they are on
even though that is insane. Matt, I just can't imagine operating. Like you're flying, like there's you can't pull her over.
No.
It's like once you're out of gas, you're
going down.
Nose diving. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going down.
Imagine just the stress of knowing that you're flying under those conditions. There's zero room for error.
No, zero. And that's why I want my pilot trained.
Yeah.
That's why. So a couple hours later, a very distorted radio message requesting a radio bearing, which is a radio directional finding that would come in from the pilot. And it would repeat its request 11 minutes later. The Bermuda radio operator was able to obtain bearing and receive receipt of this information from the pilot. But then 2 hours later, the Bermuda radio operator who had just talked with that pilot 2 hours prior ordered and declared an emergency when there was no other radio communication that could be reached or received from the Star Tiger.
Jeez.
And then on January 30th, 1948, the Star Tiger was declared lost at 4,400 miles northeast of Bermuda. Or 440,
sounds like
excuse me.
those. I mean, that sounds like it's, sure, it's the Bermuda Triangle.
Mm-hmm.
You want to believe something happened.
Yep.
I think that was just error on the part of the company and the operators and owners of this vessel, because that is insane to run a plane under those circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, it's irresponsible when a plane has had inner engine malfunctions and now we're going to put it with passengers over top of the ocean. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, that's not smart.
Maybe not. Maybe we do a tester and, not put so many lives at risk. So the search lasted 5 days, and despite worsening weather, 26 aircrafts would not be able to find a single trace of the Star Tiger or her 31 passengers. It's so sad. It's so sad.
It's very unfortunate. It's a very unfortunate whatever happened. I mean, accident, negligence, whatever. I mean, it's just an unfortunate scenario regardless.
Well, it's about to get even worse. So the Star Ariel was also an Avro Shooter Mark 5B. This was another passenger plane owned and operated by the British South American Airways. And it also disappeared between Bermuda and Jamaica almost exactly a year later on January 17th, 1949.
Jesus.
Now, the Star Ariel was actually one of 3 new and improved and even bigger Avro shooters. So it was a newer model, and it was also big. And this was also flying.
Too improved. It's like it's too improved. I mean,
doesn't sound too improved. No, it went missing. No. It went bye-bye. So also flying from Bermuda into Jamaica, they awaited flight instructions from Kindley Airfield in Bermuda. Another aircraft of similar fashion, the Lone Star, did suffer an engine failure on approach. However, it landed with no further incidents. So we had another plane that came in from Bermuda that was coming in with engine troubles, engine failure on approach. So it just sounds like to me like we just don't. We need to find another route.
Yeah.
We have the technology.
So I mean, what are some of the explanations like behind this? Like, what are like?
There's a lot.
What are the thoughts? Okay.
So there's a lot. A human error is obviously one. There's also magnetic. I love this one the most. It's down here. We were going to talk about it in a minute, but we can go ahead and talk about it. It's okay. So because like this also explains like why they're getting so many mechanical errors as well. So there's magnetic anomalies. Okay. So the triangle actually sits right between the northern and southern hemispheres, and therefore it's between the 2 poles, which can cause magnetic anomalies. So if you ends together and they kind of pull apart and you kind of get a little bit resistance, that's kind of what's happening at the poles. We have these 2 opposite ends or these 2 same ends that are trying to mesh together and it's just not working. I mean, that's basically what happens with the compass. I mean, it's like it can't compute because the magnets are going crazy.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, so it could just be like some like you said, like magnetism basically. Just putting up instruments, and then once you're flying through this area, you suddenly become blind to where you're even at.
Right, because you have that magnetism that's there that can't compute, and it's going to make your technology go haywire, including compasses, because compasses are pointing in. How do compasses find direction? That is
magnets. I mean, they're looking for the poles.
Yeah, there we go. So that's why your compass gets all fucked up. It's because you're going through 2 different poles at the same time, and if you stay right on that line, it's not going to know where to go because you're technically on the north side and then you're also on the south side. So crazy stuff. And there's also, crystal energies as well that we're going to get into a little bit later that could be playing an effect.
Okay.
Because I love my crystals.
Oh yeah.
So the Star Ariel contained 13 passengers and 7 crew members, taking off with perfect weather conditions, and with a skilled pilot, Captain John Cuthra McPhee, formerly of the Royal New Zealand Air Force. Now, he sent 2 radio communications, the first letting control know that he took off and what his ETA was, and the second communication would be to let control know that he would be changing radio frequencies to MRX. And this would be the last communication from the Star Ariel. The Star Ariel will switch their radio frequencies over, which that never happened. So he just kind of told them that it was happening, and then when Bermuda went to go ask MRX, hey, have you talked with, McPhee, or have you talked to this plane? They said they never received a request. And even stranger, the radio channel that McPhee was on wasn't even used by MRX. He was on a totally different
Really?
channel.
Wow. What would the point of that be?
There isn't one. Now, on January 23rd, after an exhausted search of 55,000 square miles of southwest Bermuda, the search would be called off. An aircraft from Kindley Airfield had actually flown over 1 million miles, but there was still no known evidence or sightings of debris of the Star Ariel. It was later revealed that despite the weather being in good condition, the Star Ariel did have communication problems with the static and poor reception, despite being in good weather. And it did seem strange that the British South American Airways did not become involved until the aircraft was missing, not being an active member of the search until over 2 hours had passed with no radio communication.
Jesus Christ.
So I don't know what the BSA is doing, or the BSSA is BSAA, I was right the first time, was doing, but they were slipping a little bit.
They were just waiting and seeing.
They really were just waiting and seeing that day.
Yeah, let's wait and see. It'll be fine.
Now, this next theory we're going to talk about is quite interesting because a lot of people do suspect that the Bermuda Triangle is some sort of portal or time dimension, or just something that you go into and you can either time travel or it's a portal to a different dimension. This is a guy, Bruce Gernon, actually says he might have time traveled on December 4th of 1970. Now, he piloted a Beechcraft Bonanza taking off from Andros Island. Bruce brought with him his father and his business partner on the ride, headed to Northeast Florida. So Bruce was an experienced pilot. He, by his early 20s, had already logged over 600 hours in flight experience. And this was a routine trip that he had done before. So not only has he already done this trip a dozen times before, he's an extremely experienced pilot. And I was actually a little shocked that prior to this experience, he reported having no other experiences prior to this. So he didn't experience any compass failure. He didn't, go through any storms or any magnetic anomalies or anything like that. So very strange right off the bat for me.
Interesting. So he wasn't like a serial or I guess, not saying he was lying, but he never was like a frequent reporter of strange occurrences or experiencing high strangeness, just nothing like that. He was just a normal dude, and this is one only thing that he's reported.
This is what happened to him.
Okay.
Yeah. He had actually done this particular flight so many times that he had already had it calculated out to only take him an hour and a half long, as long as there were no hiccups in the flight plan. So even from the time of takeoff, things started to become strange. At about 1,000 feet altitude, Bruce saw a cloud that seemed to be getting bigger. And it wasn't getting bigger because they were getting closer to it. It was actually growing in size.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And the Bonanza was just going right towards it. Just right up towards it. So Bruce would actually fly through the cloud and it would end up being just fine. But that was only the beginning. Another cloud would appear at 11,500 feet, and this one was much bigger than the last cloud, although Bruce wasn't even that thrilled about it. He wasn't that thrilled, but he was going to fly through it anyway. While going through the cloud, Bruce said it was like it was being as dark as night. Like you just walked outside and it was nighttime, no lights or anything on. There was no sunlight coming through this cloud whatsoever. This was not a storm cloud, as it was not raining, but Bruce and his passengers would actually see flashes of white light go through the cloud, so bright that the flash would actually light up everything around them, and then the cloud would go completely dark again. So, like, in that instance, your eyes really don't even have, like, it's kind of, like, really shocking for your eyes, and you go from, like, complete, like, white and then complete darkness. Because your eyes just cannot adjust that quickly. However, very similar to lightning, Bruce knew this was not lightning. You know, there wasn't a strike, there wasn't anything. It was just lights. So after about 30 minutes of flying through this cloud, Bruce began to realize that this was actually the same cloud from earlier in the flight. So at this point,
same exact one.
Same exact cloud. Same exact one. So at this point, the cloud had become cylindrical and it was about a mile wide. And the Bonanza was flying right through the center at this point. The walls of the tunnel began to narrow out. Navigational instruments began to malfunction, such as compass, which it was spinning by itself going counterclockwise. Electrical instruments all began to malfunction, leaving Bruce with no control over the plane. It began to look like Bruce, his father, and his business partner would not be making it to Florida. So, that's got to be absolutely terrifying. I bet he was white knuckling it the whole freaking way, like white knuckles and white toes, just all the way, just holding everything together. So the cloud walls would keep narrowing in on the plane, and it took all of about 20 seconds for Bruce to get the plane out of this foggy trap. Bruce said it was the most intense moment of his entire life, and I can believe that. So after emerging out of this cloud, Bruce said he felt weightless for about 5 seconds. The cloud would disappear and the aircraft was now surrounded by a grayish haze, also very similar to the effects after a storm. Because, you know, like you kind of get like that gray bit, everything just looks gray before or right after a storm. So Bruce would grab his radio and begin communicating with ground control to determine where he is, because, I have no idea. And much to the dispatcher's shock, the Bonanza was already in Miami airspace. And this was impossible to both Bruce and the dispatcher, and they both knew it, because the flight was supposed to take 90 minutes, and Bruce and his passengers had only been in the air for 47 minutes. 90-minute flight.
Damn, so wow.
They're already in Miami airspace at 47 minutes. Now, everyone thought the dispatcher was making a mistake until Bruce looked down and saw he was directly over top of Miami. Everyone was like, no, that can't be real. Can you imagine that moment for him, just like looking over and like, oh, there's Miami. Okay.
It's probably a lot of relief though, too. You made it at least, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's that weird feeling of like, okay, I made it, but how did I get here?
Yeah.
So after landing, Bruce would actually check the fuel in the plane, but it would only become more confusing as the plane had used the necessary fuel in order to get from point A to point B. So she still used everything. And the plane can only go as fast as I think like 125 miles per hour. So it was going like as fast as it could go. And that was the normal speed for it to go. So he already knew that this was going to take an hour and a half at top speed. And he did it in 47 minutes.
That's bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't like see anything, like, I guess like future, like.
No. He just went through this cloud and it had like flashes of light in it, and like it just kind of narrowed out, kind of like a wormhole, and then
damn.
The time frames did suggest that Bruce had skipped over half the intended distance, and Bruce would actually go on later in his life to consult with professors and other experts about what happened to him and his passengers during this flight. Now, Bruce would come up with a theory called electric fog, which was ultimately what he determined was the cause of the strange flashing lights. And this was a theory that he came up with himself to be what was most accurate to him. Basically, this electric fog clings to different metals and slowly eats away at them. And there's numerous different types of fogs as well. So there's radiation fog, which is, it comes from solar energy, precipitation fog. I've always had trouble with that word, guys. That's another fog that can come from cold air, and so on and so on, like different things that you guys have seen. Ice fog as well, freezing fog. And these are all things that can occur in the air as well. But this electric fog, this is something totally new.
Okay.
So of course you can imagine it's been like discounted and like, oh no, that's not, what happened to you. A lot of people think what happened was actually a water spout. There we go.
I've heard of water spouts. Yeah, I've heard of those.
These I find super interesting because they're actually really common in the Great Lakes during the summer and fall time, but they also can occur in Bermuda as well because of how vast the ocean space is around them. Now, a waterspout is a rotating column of water and spray, and it forms by a whirlwind occurring over the sea or another large body of water. It's basically like a water tornado, but we're not going to have any sharks come out of it. Not this time.
Hey, I've seen it happen 6 times before.
6 times. Oh boy. Not a 7th. Let's not do a 7th.
5 enjoyable. 5 times it was enjoyable.
Because you don't like the first one, right?
No, the first one's boring.
Oh gosh. So other people have theorized that it was actually dark energy that was the culprit of the extremely strange occurrence. Now, dark energy is actually responsible for the expansion of the universe. So a direct definition from space.com is a hypothetical form of energy that is proposed by physicists to explain why the universe is not just expanding, but is doing so at an accelerated rate. So to this day, it's completely undetermined what caused Bruce's plane to go through such haywire, as well as he and his passengers saw whatever they saw, they don't know. And even how he was able to make it up to an hour-and-a-half trip in the quarter of the time. These are just things that we don't know.
That's wild. Hey, that's not bad. Bad time though.
No, at least you made it out, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton of people that haven't made it out of there. So what could be causing this? We've already talked a little bit about what could be causing, these strange disappearances, these huge waves, all of these things. We've talked about magnetic anomalies as well as water spouts. One thing that we haven't talked about, which is probably one of the most attributed things that gets blamed for Bermuda Triangle, is called rogue waves. They're also known as freak waves, monster waves, or even killer waves. Sometimes called sneaker waves when they get up to shore. These are not as easy to spot as tsunamis are, but they're just as deadly. They're usually large and unpredictable surface waves that can become monstrous in size, taking our ships and affecting our lighthouses. They often go unnoticed in deep waters just because of how big the ocean is, that we really don't have a whole lot of things to compare it to because there's not a whole lot of land there. And they're caused by a displacement of water due to another occurrence like an earthquake or another tsunami. I was surprised hurricanes weren't on that list. They might be on the list of things that can cause rogue waves. I'm not too sure, but I was a little surprised that hurricanes. Yeah. Now, this one I think is super, super cool because, the little scientist in me. So methane gas bubbles. Methane gas bubbles are super cool because methane is lighter than air. So when a gas is filled into a bubble, it will rise up into the air and then be released. The same thing can happen underwater as well. So you get like this little bubble of gas and then it goes all the way up to the surface of the ocean and it catches on fire. So this might have actually been what Christopher Columbus saw back in the 1400s when he exclaimed when he said that he saw fire shooting off from the ocean surface.
And that is like a known thing, man. It's not a speculative event. That's an actual scientific event that can occur.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it's caused by slow leaks from the cracks in the sea floor known as methane sleeps. So some microbes can actually turn the methane into energy and live off the gas. And these can ship sinks depending on the proximity to the bubbles.
Ship sinks?
Huh?
They can ship sinks?
Yeah.
Ship sinks?
Yeah. Yep. That's what it can do. Yep. There's a lot of S's in this one, okay? Like, my allergies are going crazy. I'm having a hard time talking. There's a lot of S's. Give me a break. That's what it can ship. It can sink ships. That's what it can do. So it can sink ships depending on the proximity to the bubbles. If the ship does stay far enough away from the bubbles, it can potentially be safe. But these methane bubbles, while they can get that big, there's not really a reason for a shipwreck to occur with a methane bubble. I mean, yeah, it sounds big and scary, but for the most part, they're pretty contained.
Okay.
Now, remember how I mentioned that there was crystal energy afoot in this nonsense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, we're about to talk about Atlantis.
Oh, okay.
So not just
last year.
Oh, we did last summer at sea, and now she's coming back. She's coming back to say hi. So it's not just a luxurious resort in the Bahamas because, capitalism has to get in on that. Actually, a book by Charles Berlitz founded the idea that all the lost ships and plane crashes were due to Atlantis being lost under the Bermuda Triangle. So the Bermuda Triangle could be our location for the lost city of Atlantis.
Okay.
So using Atlantean technology, including that of crystal energies, because different crystals do create and harbor different kinds of energies. There's ones out there for healing. There's ones out there for like self-love and self-esteem. There's ones that'll keep negative energies away from you. There's also ones that I keep around my house personally that absorb energies. And then once it's full, it'll like put that energy back out. So if you have like a bunch of negative bullshit, it's going to put the negative bullshit back out.
Okay.
Don't smirk at me like that. You know, these things come from the earth. They have power. Like you can hold it in your hand and you can feel the energy.
I'm not saying anything.
I know you're not, but I see your face. They can't see it, but I can see it.
Hey, I think everyone should just believe whatever they want to believe.
That is true. Whatever makes you happy.
It's your power. It's whatever makes you happy.
Yep. So the crystal energies would cause all of the mechanical malfunctions in the crafts above. So in the book named The Bermuda Triangle in 1974, released in 1974, Berlitz also theorized that extraterrestrials were in some way involved with Atlantis, but the Bermuda Triangle as well.
That makes sense to me.
It seems, yeah.
Totally makes sense to me, yeah. Like they kind of Bermuda, not Bermuda, but Bermuda Triangle, UFOs, those kind of go hand in hand for me.
Samesies, honestly, because like it's just it's so out there. So, and that was extraterrestrials were involved, whether that was the tech of the Atlanteans or the origins of the Atlantean people themselves. Now, while his ideas were described as pseudoscientific, it did not stop the Bermuda Triangle from selling over 20 million copies in 30 different languages. So people really bought into this, even if it was just at a, pleasure read or something. But yeah, he was a money man. He was raking it in. Can you imagine, like, the probable shock? Like, I would have been shocked. I would have been 20 million copies. Really?
Yeah.
So, speaking of extraterrestrials, here we have one of my favorite things to talk about, UFOs. So, in Puerto Rico, there's actually been a lot of UFO sightings over the years. And that was something that I did not expect. I've definitely heard of sightings and experiences from Puerto Rico, but I didn't realize how many there actually were, and it's quite a lot. And one of these, hotspots actually takes place over one of the points of the Bermuda Triangle, which is that of Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So strange sightings of USOs, unidentified submersible objects, have been occurring in this area since the 1960s, when a submarine saw a dark craft enter the water and another military helicopter saw the similar occurrence in the 1990s, 40 years apart there.
Talking about USOs.
Yes.
Identified some was it
Submersible.
submerged objects. Yeah, those are interesting.
I liked it. It was cool. And this has a video on it too. It's like a 5-minute video. I'll get the link for it and hopefully we can put it in.
We'll drop that in the file cabinet below here. Yeah.
Yes.
Dropping the links.
Yes. And then on August 25th, 2013, in Agadilla. I think that's how we say it. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong. Puerto Rico. A crew of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol planes were on a routine mission when they looked out and saw something strange. A strange pinkish light was approaching the northwest. Turning on their thermal imaging cameras, they were able to get a better look at what they might actually be seeing. It appeared to be a metallic sphere moving quickly around the airport. So, okay, high alert now. It's around the airport. What the hell are you? So the craft would actually go from the airport to over top of the ocean, where it would then submerge into the ocean, then reemerge, and even more shockingly, then break into 2 separate crafts. And the winds were actually going 18 miles per hour. So it could not have been a balloon moving through this. So, let's let the Roswell people shh, it's not a balloon. So still using the thermal imaging, the researchers would be able to determine that the craft was about 104 degrees in temperature, which was not as hot as a jet engine. So it had to be ruled out right then and there. I think a jet engine actually runs 15 degrees hotter, or at least the exhaust does. So that's how they were able to determine that. Now, even further going into this, they were actually able to use the pixels from the footage, and researchers were also able to determine that the craft was between 3 and 5 feet in diameter. There hasn't been any answers for what this could be. The only thing that we do know is that no man-made technology can fly in the air, become submerged, and break into 2. Yet anyway.
Not that I know of. Yeah, not that I know of.
Yeah, we don't have that yet anyway. So it still remains a mystery as to what it was that these Customs and Border Patrol members saw. Now, with talking about all of those creepy, crazy things, and these are all true, these are all documented, guys, how dangerous really is the Bermuda Triangle? Well, the U.S. Navy actually put out a response in 1974.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So, in an article produced by the Naval History and Heritage Command titled Exorcising the Devil's Triangle by Harold L. Rosenberg, written in June of 1974, Harold goes on to explain the infamous triangle's name was actually coined by Vincent Gaddis in 1964 and would extend from Florida to the Bermuda to Puerto Rico. He would also go on to say that this is contradictory because other authors put the triangle somewhere off the western coast of Bermuda, extending into Cuba / the Dominican Republic, and then into Puerto Rico. So we already have a little bit of debunking there that not everyone can agree on where the triangle actually is. And also, we also can't agree on how big the triangle actually is.
Man, I didn't know there was that much discord about the just the location and size of it. I didn't know there was that was a controversial part of the triangle, was the actual just definition of the triangle itself.
Oh yeah, there's actually theories out there as well. Just a little side note that the triangle is actually moving because it sits on the equator. And because of global warming and all of these different things that are happening within our climate and our environments, the triangle is actually is moving, kind of like how it did in Pangea when everything moved away.
Oh, interesting.
So ultimately, Howard would go on in this article to explain the multiple disappearances, and only the ones that we really know of. There are obviously ones that we don't know of in the Bermuda Triangle. But it's also in different areas of the sea as well. So he, cites disappearances near the Virginia. He also cites disappearances in the Indian Ocean. And they're all very similar to disappearances of the Bermuda Triangle as well. So in conclusion, the Bermuda Triangle is no more dangerous than any other part of the ocean. It's really up to the people who are going out to make sure that they are prepared, they are respecting the massiveness of the ocean, as well as the dangers that they are putting themselves in. You are completely alone out there, the same way you are in the air. You are completely alone. So
yeah, it's very easy once you're out there. I mean, small mistakes have big consequences when you're in the ocean.
Absolutely. As two 14-year-old teens would find out in 2015. So these are a few of the most recent occurrences from the Bermuda Triangle. As of right now, I don't think we have any official Bermuda Triangle missing stories from the 2020s. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'd love to see those. But in 2015, two 14-year-old teens would go missing off the coast of Florida after telling their parents they were going fishing. Now, these boys went out in their little raft boat and with the intentions of going fishing, from what we understand. The boys went completely missing. They were not ever seen again. The next summer in 2016, the boat was actually found off the coast of Bermuda, and the boys were never found. They were not on the boat.
Like a year later?
An entire year later, summer to summer.
That boat was still afloat. That's wild.
Mm-hmm. But there were no life jackets found. So either they didn't have them or they were wearing them at the time they went missing. So, but they to this day have not been found. In 2017, we had two different occurrences. On February 23rd, 2017, a Turkish Airlines flight TK-183 had to change its direction from Cuba to Washington Airport after mechanical and electrical problems occurred over the triangle. And then on May 15th, a private MU-2B aircraft was at 24,000 feet when it vanished from radar and radio contact with air traffic controllers in Miami. The plane wreckage was found later that year. So there is still a lot of recent things that are happening with the Bermuda Triangle. It is still the center of attention with pop culture. There are still people that, are talking about it, that want to go out to it, that, still sail it. There was actually a very wonderful documentary done by the History Channel that explored the Bermuda Triangle. It actually expands more on the theory of the Bermuda Triangle actually moving. The camera goes up into a flight that goes over a little bit of the Bermuda Triangle, and you can actually see all of the mechanical, malfunctions that happen throughout the flight. So the compass goes completely spinning. Radios are going down. And luckily, this pilot was prepared for that to happen. So he did take extra measures to use different, types of things to wear different types of equipment that wouldn't rely on the same magnetism that was already being messed up. And they were able to make it back safely. But if you're going in blind, or not even really going in blind, you're going in expecting this to be a normal flight, you're not going to think to bring all of those things unless you're just super paranoid.
Yeah. I mean, you're depending on the equipment to work as intended.
Exactly.
That's like a fault of, I guess, us as humans in general. We expect this stuff to work, and we don't plan for the worst case scenarios.
Right, 110%. So that is everything that I have on the ginormous Bermuda Triangle. There was a lot, and there's still so much more that we could have I could have put in. But these were the biggest highlights. People are still trying to go out there. Stop. Leave it alone.
I mean, it's an enduring mystery. It's one of those things. It's ingrained in pop culture. It's kind of transcended just being this fringe belief. It's a worldwide thing. It's a phenomena, in itself. As much as the Bermuda Triangle itself is a phenomena, just the idea of it itself is just this huge thing. I mean, yeah, this is definitely a big one for summer at sea. Mm-hmm. I can definitely see Bermuda Triangle encounters would be interesting.
Ooh.
Where you just talk about the things that happen next. I mean, there's a number of different occurrences that take place in the Bermuda Triangle that are super interesting to dissect and explore.
Oh, absolutely.
This is a great addition to Summer at Sea 2. We're almost home. We're almost back to shore.
Yay!
Summer at Sea 2 is almost over. We have one more episode for this summer excursion, and that's going to be coming up here in the next 2 weeks. That's going to be the Kaz 2, a very mysterious disappearance at sea. Didn't take place in Bermuda Triangle, but definitely does have some of those elements that it fits kind of in that realm. But you did a great job, Bailey. This was a big one, and you tackled it. You hit all the marks. I mean, this is a very entertaining episode. A great coverage of the Bermuda Triangle. A great addition to Summer at Sea 2. Make sure you guys keep up to date with us at Cult Talk Net across the board. YouTube, Instagram, X, Facebook, all the things at Cult Talk Net. We're super easy to find. Bailey and I are here every other Tuesday with Cult Talks Conspiracy. We have Cult of Campbell, which sometimes has Kurt Russell in it. That is on Mondays. Whenever we so choose to release an episode of that, it comes out on Mondays.
Woohoo.
And we have Cult of Lore, our big lore, Warhammer, fantasy themed podcast, which comes out every first and third Thursday of the month.
Did you know that they are sending people to our comment section?
Did you? I know that.
Apparently, I overheard them one day when they were recording, and they were like, go over to their comment section and go, werewolves! I was like, you asshats.
Hey, no, I don't know. Hey, do it.
It's like, okay, cool, do it.
More engagement. Engagement is engagement.
We love it. So we love it.
Yeah, Ben, Jerry, and Eric, they do a really good job on that podcast. Make sure you check out youtube.com/culttalknet for the full video experience of that. But that's done it for us here for file 048, Vanishing Points, the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. We hope you guys enjoyed. We hope it helped you question everything before you go back into the water. And we'll be back here in 2 weeks. But until next time, I'm Ty.
I've been Bailey.
And let us know, speaking of comments, let us know what you think of the Bermuda Triangle. Do you believe in it? Do you think it's just a bunch of human error? Or do you think there's something more mysterious that maybe we as humans just can't even comprehend about this big blue mystery that surrounds us, that is the ocean? Leave that in the comments or hit us up at Cult Talk Now on Instagram. Leave us a comment. That does it. And as always, question never.